Ladies and gentlemen, it is officially done. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. I just wrapped up Fallout 4, and now I know I said in a previous video that most likely I was going to be doing a day-by-day analysis, but if you were like me, most likely, my problem was I could not do day 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 6 to 7, mainly because I was too into the game. Most of my time was being played on this game right here, and I actually just finished up. I think I just racked in about 35 hours, and most of that time actually took up the whole space. So instead of doing it day by day, I'm just going to give a full review, and that is pretty much what this review is. Now, as I said, the game starts off, you're this guy, you have a wife, you have a kid, the nuclear attack starts, you're right in the midst of it, you go into the vents. Eventually, there's going to be a bit of spoilers in here, so eventually, these people that we don't know, but we will eventually know, they take you out of cryogenic state, they take your wife out, and then they, also your kid, Sean, they kill your wife, and then they, take your kid. Eventually, later on, a few years later, which you think is 10 years, but actually fast forward, it's actually more. I'd say it's about 60 years that the guy actually gets cryogenicized out. He finally comes out of there, and then he goes looking for his son, and that's when your adventure begins. First of all, as I said in the day one, I think the creations were great. I think they did nice with the hair. The voice is a good enough voice that if you picked a black guy or even a Mexican guy, it can fit well enough to not actually seem weird. Now, getting slightly off topic here, in Mass Effect, Commander Shepard has a good voice for specifically white people or a specific look. But if you make him black, the voice doesn't necessarily fit. The voice that they got here for Fallout 4 was actually a good enough voice to actually fit for all races and whatnot. I can't say the same for the wife, because I did not play the female yet, but who knows, in another playthrough, maybe. But fast forward, we meet a couple of people, certain people that stuck out in the game that I thought was very interesting. Cogsworth was very good. I thought he was actually, as I said, I think he's actually a lot more better of a robot. The robot from Borderlands, I think he's got, Cogsworth got him beat. Forgive, my mess up right there. But Cogsworth was great. The main guy I actually found the most interesting, ever since day one, since the moment I did his quest and then I had to find him, and that was Nick Valentine. So shout out for Nick Valentine. I think some of the more interesting characters, believe it or not, were actually synths. And we'll get to that later. Three of my favorite characters in the game for, the companions were actually synths. Cogsworth, I thought was great, but eventually, once you kind of get more people later on, especially when Nick came in, I kind of sensed Cogsworth aside. Nick, I think was my favorite character. Paladin Danse, shocking. I'm going to go into a bit of spoilers. Well, actually, not that many spoilers there, sorry. So you fast forward, you go to eventually Diamond City to look for his son. Then you eventually see this reporter, Piper. She's a very snoopy girl. They're talking about the Institute. The Institute is actually who most likely has taken Sean and a whole bunch of other people. So while he's looking for his son, he's also adding for help, and he's doing these people favors, as most things do. You help someone to get something, they give you something back. The great things about this game, I'm going to talk about some pros and I'm going to talk about some cons. The pros about Fallout 4 is, one, it is highly addictive, and I gotta admit, at least, now granted, there's going to be two split sides, one good, one bad. Now, for one, the good thing about Fallout 4 is, like I said, it is highly addictive. It is immensely fun, and probably is the most fun I've had all year for games. Now, I'm not saying any of these games have been disappointing. The last time I had a lot of fun, some people may or may not, which I think actually may be an underrated game by the time we look at it, maybe by next year, is Mad Max, which is probably the second time I had the most fun with, which was, to me, a lot more fun than Metal Gear Solid 5. Metal Gear Solid 5, to me, was very disappointing. I'm not a giant Metal Gear Solid fan, but I really do. Snake Eater is actually one of my favorite video games that I played that I had so much fun with, and even not really being a giant Metal Gear Solid fan. But yes, Fallout 4 I think was probably one of the most fun I had in a video game in quite some time. I think the gameplay is great. Something that never gets annoying for me is the critical strikes. the action moves. Once you hit those things and you hit it perfectly, and it's just a precise execution, you calm the thing, and you can't get any better than that. That just gets constantly fun every time you do it. And you just get more hyped. There are giant boss battles. The Merlic Queen, which just took up everything, man. The funny thing was, in the final boss battle, when it's all said and done, or fast forward in the story, when it's all said and done, you eventually get to the Institute, you make this relay, and then you see this old guy. You finally see Sean, and you're like, Sean is finally here. Great, we got him. Here we go, let him out. But it turns out that it's not Sean. Sean is actually a synth. The synth are taking people, and then they're making them into synths, artificial intelligence. So Sean has actually not been a baby this entire time. It has not been 10 years. Sean is not 10 years old. Kellogg, when he said, your son, he's much older than you thought. When he said that, I didn't think too much about it. I thought he was about 10 years old or whatever, as kind of the story proclaimed. But it's actually been longer than 10 years. It's actually been about 60 years, as I said earlier. You see this old man, which is just named Father, and then you start to wonder, well, what the heck is going on here? But it turns out that Father is actually Son. Son is actually Sean. You're Sean. Your son. That's right. So you start to get a little bit of a mindfuck thing going on. And Sean is actually the head guy of the Institute. Yes, the same Institute that you thought actually kidnapped your own son is actually the head guy in charge. And then he eventually tries to convince you to be his successor because he eventually is dying. And that's more toward later on in the game. Now, some of the alliances that you make, like the Brotherhood or the Railroad, if anybody remembers Virgil at the very beginning of the Glowing Green Sea, which is probably one of the most annoyingest levels, in my opinion, because I didn't really have. Later on, you get a hazmat suit, but at that time, I didn't have anything to really protect me. So I'm just like injecting Radexes and Radaways and stim packs just to like rush across the Glowing Sea. But the environment really summed it up. You really you felt the tension of that thing. The world came alive in the Glowing Sea. Sometimes you hear things. It's kind of like in Dragon Age where it was the dragon at the end. You kept constantly hearing about it, and then when you finally see it, you hear these stories, and the image starts to kind of like build up in your head. The Glowing Sea kind of did that, and it was a very good way. But eventually, Virgil, I didn't really care to like find his cure, so I was just like, look, deal's off. No deal, and then I just shot him and killed him, and I figured it was better. He didn't want to live like that. I was gonna get his cure. I killed him, so I thought I was doing the right thing. Don't judge. But yeah, I eventually stuck to the Brotherhood. I didn't really help Preston Garvey. I was getting annoyed with his constant task, over and over, and then they kind of start to just become boring. Mama Murphy is coked out of her mind on Jet because I built her a chair. She didn't want to sit in the chair. And then for some reason, that was just nuts. She was just losing it. Paladin Danse, a very interesting character. And it turns out that Paladin Danse actually, the synths eventually can be so human-like that they actually don't know that they are synths. They have the memories of being human and whatnot. But Paladin Danse eventually is known. He eventually is known to be a synth. He's a synth, actually. He doesn't know. And then the head guy over at the Brotherhood, Mason, he tells us to go after Paladin. I try to convince him, and luckily I do it well enough that Paladin actually stays alive, but he's banished from the Brotherhood. Now, I thought maybe if I bring Paladin back, maybe they might not remember it. But the moment I brought him back, they would shoot on sight. They say, you are enemy. It is done. Which sucks because I actually wanted to do the final battle with Paladin. But I did it with my boy Nick Valentine, so that was good enough. Now, as I said, some other pros in this. I like the world. Now, to me, I didn't think Boston really, at least maybe in my play, I didn't think Boston really did much. Unless you really went in some buildings and unless you really inspected things much. But on the outside of things, I didn't think Boston really made much of a difference to me. Like, for example, how, Miami made for Vice City or whatever. But that's just a small thing. The story, I thought the story was good. Some people said the side quests are more interesting than the actual story. I don't necessarily think that. I thought the story was great. There's some things that were kind of just like, huh? That was kind of, yeah, I guess kind of pointless. Why couldn't we just nuke it ourselves, really? But, whatever. Saved bullets. When we built Optimus Prime. Oh, no, my mistake. Liberty Prime, which was pretty much just Optimus. It was a joke, obviously, and I got it. It was funny. But I just thought, what was it? We used it in like one shot, and just like that was it. Some negatives in this. The game is buggy as hell. The game is glitchy. I'm playing one time, and it literally just says error, and then it just stops the game, and then I had to like reboot it. They say I needed an update, which was pointless because I didn't do update. I did an update at the very beginning, but once they said do an update, I just clicked it. I didn't do no update, and then it just went back. So therefore, it was just a mishap on them. There's a couple of textures popping up. There's lagging. There's constant things that are just like freezing up, and at the towards when we doing the Liberty Prime thing, he's just like standing there, and I'm just like, if I have to do this entire thing over, I'm gonna go berserk. Because I was on this long enough, and it's not exactly, I hate tailing missions, and it's even worse when you're tailing a giant fucking robot. And it's not that many even negatives in here, and I just thought it was funny, and I'm going to bring this up, because people I've been seeing on reviews have been letting, Bethesda kind of get away with these bugs and glitches, I guess because it's the norm, and because it was in Fallout 3, I heard in comments people quoting those were actual quotes. They were doing Fallout 3 or whatever. Let's let it slide. This doesn't know what they're doing. Now, granted, it's a fun game. It's a well put together game. The soundtrack is amazing. The soundtrack is awesome. Some people said they recycle the same songs. I don't know. I didn't play the music in Fallout 3 much. But I don't know. End of the World, great song. Wanderer is a great song. I played it once the credits rolled. It was such a good thing. I constantly have the music going, except in conversation, as I said. Another negative, if you actually have the music on, which maybe I should have got the heads up, but if you constantly have the music on before you head into a conversation, the music could be too loud and you actually might not hear what they're saying, and you just kind of go by instinct pressing anything. As I said, it's buggy. There's not too many things. I kind of wish that, it made it a bit. It started to get. This is nitpicks right here, but it was kind of annoying, because when you kind of get into the thing, and then people saying, Valentine is like that, Codsworth didn't like that, Dance hated that. I was just like, Jesus Christ, I can't please anybody here. I'm just gonna do whatever the hell I want, and if somebody's got a problem with it, then let that be. Who cares? But yeah. There's not many negatives in this game other than it is buggy as fuck, but the problem was, for reviews, people are letting it slide, but when Unity, last year, by Ubisoft, I get it, people hate Ubisoft, whatever it is, they nearly ripped their ass out, because Ubisoft had a constant bugs, people flying in the air, zipping up, like Metal Gear Solid with the balloons, it's something. The gaming community, really. And I'm a gamer, and I understand that. I complain. People complain. We all complain. We're a community of complainers with controllers in our hands. But Fallout, like I said, positives, the creations, the music, the world, the funness is addicting. I had to shave because I wasn't going out long enough. I had to honestly shave. Just trim it down. Just trim it down. I had to do that. It was just that good. I had to put off my day-by-day reviews because I was playing so long. Today, I just played it for about maybe 8 hours straight. Racking up to 35, as I said. The negatives is buggy. There's some mishap things. The commanding for your crew to go here and there is a little awkward. Some people, I didn't try it in first person. To me, first person gets too confusing. But that's just me. There's not much, as I said, there's not many negatives in this game. Those were the positives. These were the negatives. If I had to add another negative to the list, it might just be, maybe it was my playthrough, but I didn't think, I was actually expecting credits to roll. This is just small nitpick, but I was expecting credits to roll. It didn't. Whatever. Who cares? I beat the game though. It's done. That was Final Quest. If you wanted to hear a bit of a spoiler, I chose the nuclear option with the Brotherhood. I found myself better with them. We nuked that shit. I'm the head guy. I got power armor. I got a jetpack now. It's good to go. And, who knows? Am I done with the game? No. Am I done with the main story? That I am. We still got shit to do. We still got a world to save. I got a son now. I saved Sean. Allegedly. The robot Sean. Did anybody kill him? Anybody leave him? Probably not. You have a heart. Anyways, this has been my Fallout review. Here are my pros. Here are my cons. Comment, subscribe, like. Let me know what you think. I'm back. Here we go. This has been Chris Smith, Rolling Stone fan, signing off. And remember, war never changes.